Hello, everyone, and welcome to Grind Season. My name is Anthony Sain. I'm here, of course, with my co-host and good friend Jason Smith of the Jason and John podcast, which you can hear on 92.9 ESPN. Of course, they are a Audacy station. You guys listen to Grind Season, which is an Audacy podcast. Listen to us on the free Audacy app or wherever you listen to podcasts. We are here for episode number 37, I believe, our second full video show for YouTube as well. But I watched the last YouTube show. I felt semi-famous, Jason Smith. I feel like I was watching some on Grind City Media or something.
Quarter famous, bro. Not semi-famous.
It ain't quite a Grind City Media production level style. We
gotta keep grinding, son.
Yeah. That's what's up, man. That was up. But Jason Smith, how you doing today, bro?
Everything is good. Welcome to this morning edition of Grind. Yeah, boy, it's a little Scottie Pippen, a little more Scottie Pippen-ish. Got the coffee this morning instead of the Coke. So as a result of the time, I may be a little more of a refresh saying than we usually
maybe so.
I got all of it, man. I'm ready. I'm bouncing off the walls because it's caffeine. Let's go.
Yeah, I'm having a good day, man. Yes, my last couple of days been kind of rocky. I recently purchased a car, and I was at work last week, and one of the young ladies there needed a boost off. And me being one of the men, not only men, but one of the elder statesmen, being a older man in my 40s, saw a younger lady needed help. So I said, let me help this young lady. Attempted to boost the lady's car off Jason Smith, and I found out I'm used to driving an older car, Jason Smith. And when the car I got now, I come to find out I wasn't supposed to boost this lady's car up. Messed up something in my whole little battery system. Had to get that replaced. But shout out to my people at Carway on Summer Avenue. My boy Michael Carew sold me the car and made sure I was straight. Go check out Carway, man. They took care of me. I was stressed out, Jason Smith, but they took care of me, man. The good people over there. And I know it's a mechanic shortage in the city of Memphis. I think all of them work at Carway because it was like 10 different dudes. They were working on my car at the same time. I don't know where they get all these mechanics from because you go in another lot, they shorthanded. But it's probably a testament to the great work they do out there at Carway. I'm good. I'm refreshed. I'm getting ready to head out to Nashville in the morning to go see my daughter. And I'm confident my car is going to get me there safely. We are having another episode of Grind Season again, just to let you guys know what you can expect in today's show. Of course, we're going to talk about the big news of the day. Since the last time we talked, at least, that Ja Morant has a return date set and when he can come back to the team. We're going to talk about that. I'm going to take a victory lap just to let y'all know from some of my predictions on how I thought this whole thing would play out. We're going to talk about, of course, the Jalen Rose interview. We're going to talk about the people hating on Ja Morant, finding the old Instagram post when he was 13 years old, these type of things. The Trista Cricks of the world. Shout out to Audacy podcaster, Trista Crick, for getting her jabs in at Ja Morant. We'll talk about that and how Ja coming back ultimately will affect the team going forward. Enough of the off the court stuff. We're going to talk about how this team can benefit by getting their guy back. Somewhere in the middle, we'll talk about an ugly loss that the Grizz had to the Miami Heat, Jason Smith. And we'll wrap it up. It's just kind of an NBA wrap up. Talk about some things going on around the league, specifically Michael Jordan looking to sell his minority share of the Charlotte Hornets.
Majority share.
I said minority. His majority share. My bad. We'll talk about that as well as the MVP race might be looking a little different, as well as the Defensive Player of the Year race. We'll talk about that today and more here on Grind Season. Jason Smith, I already checked in with you. You said you're good. I'm good. So let's go ahead and hop into it. The news of the day, of course, since the last time we talked, is that the NBA decided to suspend Ja Morant for 8 games. 6 of those, which includes games that he's already, taking time away from the team, plus an additional 2, meaning he'll be back eligible by March the 20th to return with the team. He's eligible to play if he wants to. But knowing how the Grizzlies do things, even before this came out officially, we knew, well, it's probably not the game Ja's going to play. They're going to take a couple games to rev him up, probably, and you'll see him very soon after the 20th. I'm going to take a victory lap, Jason Smith. I was telling everyone, relax. I even made a prediction. I said, I think that Ja Morant will be back by March the 20th at home on a Friday night against the Houston Rockets. And if you look at the 20th, that's the game when he can come back. You add 2 more games to that to get him revved up, and that's March the 24th. Shout out to me, the man who calms the masses, the voice of the voiceless, the tribal chief of Grizz Twitter himself, for telling y'all how I felt this was going to go. And damn near Jason Smith, it played out exactly the way I said. Jason Smith, how would you like to give me props today?
Very impressive on your part, because again, I don't know how, with the way this thing went. I mean, I guess you did. I mean, you could make an educated guess. You could in terms of how the NBA was going to weigh in, because it had to have its say in the fact that it went along pretty much with what the Grizzlies have done. There was no guarantee of that, so it's very to get the time frame, very impressive on your part, Sain, because I had no idea, honestly. And I think at some points we'd started to lean towards, and really it was when Dylan Brooks had said this is our squad going into the playoffs, that it left a little bit of, maybe just a little bit of fear in the back of your mind that at least for the regular season there might not be no more Ja Morant. So it's now credit to you on the on nailing when the return would be. And then now in terms of for the Grizzlies in the season, it's obviously great news. You hope that was enough time for Ja to make the sort of corrections he needs, both for this season and whatever the Grizzlies can be, but more so for himself, right? That was enough time, time off, time away, whatever it is, that this isn't going to be something that's taken lightly by him. And I don't, frankly, with everything that's come back to him, and we always said, you're going to get back in this universe, kind of what you put out. But I don't see, with everything that's come back, with all the criticism, some to an extent that's been unfair, how he could take this lightly. How this time, he doesn't make the changes necessary. So again, that's a hope. That's at this point. But I'm hopeful Ja Morant was gone long enough and has lost enough at this point, and has had his, let's be real, his reputation tainted in some ways. Certainly fixable, not irreparable. But with all of that, man, I'm just hoping that change comes more so again for him in everything he can be than anything else about this season or what the Grizzlies could do this year.
Right. Of course, Wednesday, I was elated. I was out to eat, and I saw the tweet from Jalen Rose, the preview of him and Ja Morant, and I thought, who would be better to represent Ja correctly, to do this interview the most justice? The first words that would come out of Ja's mouth. Jalen Rose, of course, shared one of the most poignant, relatable videos as far as his opinion of the whole Ja Morant situation, and I felt that he would do a good job of doing it. The video came out late that night after the Warriors and the Clippers played, of the actual interview, and then the full interview came out yesterday, Thursday, the next day after the edited version. I watched every version of it all the way through. People have mixed opinions about it. And I'll just say this as I hand it over to you. All things considered, first, it was just good to hear Jaren. I mean, it's good to hear Ja speak, just to hear him say something about what he's been going through over the last 10 days and what he's put himself through, which is also something I'll give as a testament to Ja. He admitted, that he's not a victim in this, and these are things that he's made honest mistakes on. I think it was good to hear that. Jalen Rose was a little DJ Vladish, for those of y'all who know who DJ Vlad is. Some of the interrogation questions, like whose gun was it, and all these type of things that he was asking. Those things were kind of funny, but in total, I think the interview was fine. There were some things, Ja just wasn't going to say, regardless of who the interviewer was. But I do like that he was admitting his error throughout of it. He admitted that he's still, a work in progress. Though a lot of people are criticizing him, criticizing the whole situation, like what can you get done in 10 days, and why is he up here like he's fine now, and all those type of things. But I just applaud him for admitting that he had a problem and that he's on the road to trying to figure those things out.
Yeah, there's accountability, which is what you wanted to see. Ja had been very defensive in terms of some of these previous incidents, in terms of the gun, the alleged gun incident. Ja, stood firm that, listen, this is sort of an attack on not just me but us. Whereas with this, it was a different Ja. It was one that was more humble, obviously, contrite, all that, and so that was good to see. I'll say this, saying on Jalen Rose and the questions. This is very simple for I'm not speaking to you specifically, but y'all got to understand Jalen was not prying, and you got to understand too that Ja understood that the gun question was coming. There's two sides to this. Jalen Rose gets something because he's getting an exclusive interview with Ja Morant after defending him publicly, right? He gets the exclusive interview that everybody wants to see. Jalen Rose goes in and he's the one asking the questions. As a return for that, he lets Ja know beforehand, I guarantee you, look, I have to look like a tough questioner. So I'm going to, because of my role in this situation, I can't look like some simp that's throwing you softballs in this exclusive interview, right? I've got to ask you some quote unquote tough questions. I guarantee you that was discussed beforehand. And so Ja was not caught off guard by that question about who's gonna. In fact, he was expecting it so he could say, not my gun, and at least answer that part of the narrative. And so, listen, I thought it was handled well on both sides. And you got to understand there was a business deal to that. There was a reason for those Memphians that are offended by Jalen asking them if that Memphians and outside of Memphis, because I've seen some of that on Twitter, understand that that's part of the deal. That's part of, Ja Morant getting that platform to say what he wants to say, but that's also giving Jalen Rose his sort of credibility to say, hey, I'm going to do this interview and I'm not just going to softball him or fan him. So that was very important. I did think, though, like, I thought Ja said most of the right things. The one thing about it is he did sound like, okay, I've got it figured out now. Now it's all good and I'm back. Whereas, I would have advised him to say, hey, kind of what he said after we're not concerned about anybody in the West, kind of how he changed the tone and said, we're a work in progress, sort of that. Not, again, to give yourself room to make another mistake, but just because you don't want to be held up to some standard that now you have to be perfect. You could have said, hey, it's a process. This is where I've been weak and need to get stronger, and I'm going to work towards that. I just thought, you give yourself less leeway when you say, hey, man, I've got it figured out now. That said, it had to happen. And the tone, which was one of accountability, one of I messed this up, was necessary, saying. So, listen, it was important to do. And again, I just hope that there is real, that Ja understands the need for real change.
Yeah, I kind of implied a lot of that. Not that he particularly said it, but kind of some of the other words he used and the tone he was using, it kind of came off to me like he was letting people know, this isn't a one-time thing. I would not be surprised that if there was additional sessions set up for him.
Right.
If that's something that could be done, remotely or whatever. I'm sure that they gave him valuable tools, man. Just being transparent. In my divorce, I remember we had to go to several sessions of counseling, several reincarnation of counseling, you know what I mean? During the marriage, the tough times in the marriage, the divorce, all these type of counseling, and you're constantly learning. You're constantly, reconditioning yourself. It's just like a car. It's kind of like if you've never taken your car to get a tune-up and you get one for the first time, like, man, my car drives amazing now. You can't just say, okay, I'm good forever. You should regularly get tune-ups on your car, constantly get oil changes, all those type of things. Yeah. So it's definitely that type of thing. And there was a young lady on my Twitter feed that was sharing, more about how therapy actually works and how it's a constant thing, you know what I mean? And I'm sure Ja understands that. But like I said, the interview was fine to me. I was just glad to hear him speak, to kind of share his story. Just ready to see him back, man. Ready to see him back with the team. Glad that because sometimes, man, the therapy was good. The suspension is good. But sometimes just realizing what all you could have lost sometimes is the best help you need. And I think he gets that. If nothing else, I think he realizes how irresponsible he's been over the past, year or so, and how those actions kind of affect him. I think that just seeing him that humble yesterday really, stood out to me.
Well, it may cost your team a chance of holding down the 2 spot, which is home court through the first 2 rounds. This may add to that if the Kings go on to get the number 2, and then you may have cost yourself. Forget what you might have done. You may have cost yourself $40 million, like we've talked about. So there's already possible damage done, and that's why it can't be I might have lost this if I no. It's got no. I did. I've lost this. And I'm hoping that I'm hoping that the broadcasters and the sports writers still vote him all NBA. But with the time missed, with the narratives and the multiple incidents, you got to know that there's a good chance he's not making all NBA. So he's already cost himself individually, but also his team possibly, especially if you're not holding on to number 2. Like we could say, you get Ja back, playoffs are still there. What you can be, but there was a good chance to hold down that 2 spot. And with the time that he's been gone, obviously, you know, you've cost yourself possibly. You've cost your team, not just yourself.
Yeah. All in all, everything's been good. About the interview, a lot of people spoke about it. There's been a lot of criticism about it. We talked about some of that just then. People are going to do that, man, because when it comes down to ESPN, if Stephen A. Smith was asked, "Hey, Stephen A., we need you to do this Ja interview," he would have done it, and he'd have been, "Oh, Ja did a masterful job with me," and you would have heard all those type of things. As a lot of it probably is people feeling some type of way. If Jalen Rose did get such a big interview for something that's been such a massive story over the last few weeks or whatever. Trista Crick put her video out. That's what Trista does, man. You know what I mean? So
yeah, I mean, but you have to keep it. And you know, we were off this week from our show, so we didn't talk to her on Tuesday. But we'll get a chance to talk to her next Tuesday. You have to keep it factual. You have to keep your takes factual, though.
She was doing the most.
In that Houston High incident, Ja Morant did not have a gun. He was not accused of having a gun in the Houston High. And so you're
when he's at his house, man. If he's at it, on his property and he carries a gun, like
but in the whatever. Thought he saw a gun on the man that was with Ja, not Ja. And in her take, it's Ja's gun. Ja had a gun here. No, this and in this case, the police didn't find evidence or whatever it was. And so you have to keep the takes factual. But that's again saying, you said the word, that's what's going to happen in 2023 in for those that follow the NBA and in America, basically. Forget facts. You know, when you've got multiple incidents, the things are going to get conflated, get thrown out the window. The narrative becomes Ja has a gun everywhere he goes. You know what I'm saying? And that's, you know, that was naturally going to happen because of the place that Ja's put himself. But that said, you know, for the media folks, man, you have to at least keep your takes factual. And so she, you know, some of those facts she got mixed up and smeared all over.
Now, I like what Trista does. You know, she's pretty good at what she does. I like her hustle, but what I was saying was, she's one of those content creators where you're just making stuff to kind of get a pop, to get people buzzing or sharing your stuff or talking about your stuff. And with that, man, you kind of throw the rules out the window.
That's today's media, though.
Yeah, that's what media looks like these days, man. You know what I mean? So that's not a knock at her. That's her style. She's one of many people who that's what they do. So, you know, I'm not, you know, whatever. But yeah, I let people say what they have to say, because at the end of the day, Ja has to get better, and only he can prove that he's fixed or right or getting towards being right or work in progress, whatever. He's ultimately the person going to determine all that, regardless of what everyone is saying, regardless of what he even did. He still has opportunity to redeem himself and fix all those things. Now, on the court stuff, we both think that Ja won't be back by the 20th. We're probably saying a couple games later, the 24th against Houston at home.
I mean, you're going to end up being right about the day he actually comes back, for real.
Right. If you look at it, you got Dallas. You might get Luka and Kyrie back. Even with those two guys back, I'm not going to call it a loss. I'm not impressed with this Dallas team at all. You got Houston, 2 games at home. You should get those games. Ja's going to be back on the court. You get your leader back. You get your leading scorer back. You know he's going to have a energy boost when he comes out. The crowd is going to go crazy. I've requested every game. I've requested every game from the 20th up until the 26th, I believe, which is when I'm going out of town anyway to go see the team. So I plan on being in the building. What do you think about the impact of Ja coming back with the last 10 to 12 games left in the season? Like you said, Denver's right there with you. 2-3, you guys are right there trading back and forth depending on what night it is. How do you think the season will play out with Ja coming back in?
It's going to give you a chance to go back up and grab 2. Sacramento's now a half game ahead of you. Like we said, it's not done yet. Sacramento hasn't locked down the number 2 seed. There's still an opportunity to get that. And I think just because of what we've seen in the splits, road and home, it's so important that the Grizzlies get that too. Because like we mentioned, that's home court through the first 2 rounds of the playoffs. You put the Grizzlies at home court for the first 2 rounds, bro, they got a chance to advance. They've been that good. I think it's still second best home record in the league this year. And so, again, having Ja Morant back, even with the news about Steven Adams and the reevaluation, hopefully into the regular season, maybe you get him back, Brandon Clark out, you know, having Ja back helps offset that. We've seen, like you talked about, that Miami game, they had no horses, man. they didn't have the firepower. And so at home, that's different. Role players are playing better there. But you need Ja Morant back if you're going to go back up and catch Sacramento. Like we said, it's only a half game right now. But the thing is, that Sacramento team's second best record, or perhaps it's tied for best record since the All-Star break. They are on absolute fire. And I know their schedule is technically tougher than the Grizzlies the rest of the way. But at this point, that's a Sacramento team. It looks like if you want to continue to sort of tread water here, they're going to pass you up and hold down that 2 spot. So, saying I answer your question by saying I'm hopeful that Ja Morant being back for at least the last 10 or so games is going to give them a chance to go back up there and keep that 2 seed. It's so important. Again, there's a 3 home court first round, but big difference between 2 and 3 in terms of having home court through those first 2 rounds of the playoffs.
Right, definitely for sure. You guys, of course, are watching in Grind Season here on the free Audacy app. Here with Anthony Sain and Jason Smith of the Jason and John Show. You mentioned the Grizzlies did have a tough loss on Wednesday against the Miami Heat, a 138-119 loss. Jaren Jackson Jr. led the team in scoring that night, 29 points, 9 rebounds, only had 1 block. We'll talk about Jaren's block numbers later on in the show. I don't really have much to say about this game. Desmond Bane was ejected in the third quarter for gave a little ball shot to Kevin Love. A lot of people were saying that it wasn't worth getting ejection for. I think I agree as well. Don't really care. Tough loss. Not really much I could pull from this game other than teams like Miami, they slow you down in the half court. They're super strong, super physical, super experienced. We struggle with these type of teams. Miami, we've always had a hard run against Miami, regardless of who they put on the court sometimes. They shoot the ball well from 3. Just a tough loss. You would have wanted to get more maybe from a Tyus Jones, probably more from Dillon. Dillon was 1 of 4 from 3, 3 of 7 from the field. Just a tough game to lose against Miami. Not really stressing about it. I'm just trying to get to the finish line with everybody back, with Ja back for sure. I'm one of the people, Jason Smith, I believe that if things go well, I would not be surprised for Steven Adams to be ready for the playoffs. Like, I mean, probably a long shot, but I wouldn't be surprised to see that. David Roddy continued to emerge, had 8 points of the night. Zaire Williams, we mentioned this off the air. In garbage time, I'll admit, but to see anything positive from Zaire really is exciting. I do a lot of huffing and puffing about John Conchar, about how he gets too many minutes. If Zaire Williams was good this year, there wouldn't be much discussion about a John Conchar. Because Zaire can play the 2, he can play the 3, 6'9", 6'10" kid. Some people saying he's 6'11". It just, I mean, if he was good, it wouldn't be anything to talk about. Hopefully he can get going. Probably not going to see him ready for the playoffs in this short amount of time that's ready. But I do like the emergence of David Roddy, like we talked about in the last show. He's been really coming with it. Like I said, disappointing loss. But, there are, of course, some things you can pull positively from this team, even in a loss.
Yeah, that as far as you're right. There's very little it felt like you could pull. I thought getting I was about to say the scrubs, but the end of the bench guys like Zaire Williams that need confidence. Pete Prenticle was saying it on the broadcast at that point in the game. If you can find anything, any silver lining, just seeing the ball go in the bucket for Zaire Williams, hopefully for his confidence, that was a good thing. Because other than that, it's a throwaway game. What's crazy about that game, you scored 42 points in the fourth quarter, still lost by 19. That's how one-sided that game was. It wasn't even as close as the 19 would suggest. But in the end there, you were getting some guys in that were, like we said, hopefully building on confidence, namely Zaire Williams. That's the main thing, the only thing. The crazy thing about this is, Sain, I mentioned this to you off air, if they can take care of business today against the Spurs, they're 9-point favorites on the road. They can finish this road trip 2-1 and go to 4-3 without Ja Morant. And so if you consider the fact that a lot of that without Brandon Clark, all without Steven Adams, this could be, in fact, at 2-1, really technically your best road trip of the season. Like you've had a 2-2, you went 2-0 at a couple of spots, but for a bad road team all year, 2-1 without Ja Morant, you would take that all day long. Hopefully the Spurs are ready to lay down later on tonight when they play, because like we said, you talk about salvaging things to go 2-1 on this road trip. would represent your best year. Now, I'm not going to go as far as to say what Taylor Jenkins said, that basically without Ja Morant, we found some things about ourselves in terms of togetherness that maybe we didn't know, because hopefully, he tried to say positive. This could be a good thing for other guys. You had mentioned that it's easier maybe for him to coach the team. I was thinking about your point earlier this week. That's maybe it's easier for him to coach the team when Ja's away. So
yeah,
I don't know. Maybe there's a little credence in what he said, that he learned a little bit more about him. That said, I'm just happy with the fact that you got a chance to go 2-1 on this road trip, go to 4-3 without Ja Morant, and then hopefully have him back soon. And so again, Miami was one thing. They're getting in playoff mode. Hopefully San Antonio, we're representing an opportunity tonight to get an easy win, and maybe more confidence for young guys like Zaire. Maybe you handle it in such a fashion that you can get some of these, some of these lesser played guys out there. Keep getting Roddy out there. That feels important because, to your point, that feels like something that maybe you can pull from in the playoffs if you can keep him playing at a high level going in. And so again, hopefully for some of those guys, man, it's a chance not just get a win tonight, but to keep some momentum sort of rolling for those guys.
Yeah, I said 12. It's actually 14 games left in the season. You mentioned games ahead of time, games we have left. Just a quick look at the next 5 or 6 games. You got the Spurs on tonight. Spurs are tanking. Greg Popovich might say, damn, all that. This the Grizzlies. I want to beat these dudes. Well, it'll probably be an easy win tonight. The Spurs ain't beating nobody. You got the Spurs tonight. You got the Warriors at home on tomorrow night. That's going to be a big game. We beat them handily last time. You still know Ja or whatever. That could be a big win if you could pull that one out at home and just kind of solidify, turn things around against that Warriors team.
Exactly. Evens the season series too, Put it at 2.
You got the Mavericks here Monday, the first game that Josh eligible. We both say he won't play that game. 2 games against Houston here at home. You can kind of make some hay over this next, week or so, expecting that Ja will probably be playing next Friday here at home. Then they go out on the road against Atlanta, a team that's, you don't know what version of that team you're going to get. So it's going to be interesting to see how we fare over the next few games. And whether Taylor Jenkins think this team is gelling at the right time, or being shorthanded is making things better for them, possibly, or whether it might be a little easier coaching this team, coaching this group of personalities with Ja Morant being removed from it. I'm just glad to see number 12 back with this team coming very soon. He went through some tough moments that were self-inflicted. Not gonna act like he's a victim of anything, but I'm glad to see Ja Morant back, hoping he has those tools to take this team through this final stretch of the regular season and into the playoffs. You guys, of course, are listening to Grind Season, the Grind Season podcast here on the Audacy Network, or wherever you listen to podcasts. This is Anthony Sain along with Jason Smith. Our final segment of the show for our final show of the week. Just going to do a quick NBA rundown of some NBA news. Quick thoughts on it to get you guys up out of here. Enjoy the rest of your day, the rest of your weekend. Michael Jordan announcing that he is attempting to share his majority share of the Charlotte Hornets. Some dude from the Atlanta Hawks or somebody else, whatever. I don't really care about the details with that. But I will say, for a man who, if you want to have the debate about who's the greatest of all time, I think Michael Jordan is the greatest basketball player of all time. I think LeBron James is right there by him. I'll let you guys debate about that. If you want to debate about that, if you don't say Jordan's number 1, you're saying he's 1B or he's number 2. You're not. He's one of the greatest players of all time. No one with a brain will argue any different. He's been successful as an athlete, of course. He's been successful with the Jordan brand, marketing, blazing trails for every player as an endorser, including LeBron James, including whoever you want to name, including Tiger Woods. Michael Jordan created all of that. There's a movie coming out about his marketability. I got to see that movie too. It's going to be tough. Success on and off the court. He's got a cologne that you can still go buy at Walgreens or wherever you might be. He's Michael Jordan. He's probably one of the most recognizable athletes logo of all time. Something he definitely has to put down as a failure, even bigger than his failed attempt at baseball, is him as an executive, as an owner of an NBA team. No real playoff success, tons of bad draft moves, bad trades under his regime. why do you think that a guy like Michael Jordan, who's been so successful with everything, had so much lack of success as an owner of his NBA team? And I'll say this too. It's exciting to see a black man have a majority share in the NBA.
He's the only one saying that's a majority owner.
Right. But I never had that pride in him. Like, I always kind of felt like he was dropping the ball in that area. I don't know, just because it was Michael Jordan. Maybe I would have been happy if it was another brother, but being that it's Michael Jordan, I've never felt impressed about his reign as an owner or GM at all.
Oh, it's been terrible. I mean, from a personnel standpoint, trying to put a team together, you can't. There isn't much to defend. Going after Gordon Hayward for as long as he has, even before he finally got him, and then with his
what for what?
Why? What was it? What Terry?
He wanted to trade a bunch of picks for. Remember, he wanted to trade like 4 or 5 first-round picks for Justice Winslow or something like that. Drafting all these big stiff bums and. Oh man, it's just weird, man. Like,
so you asked me why that is. I know this has been brought up a lot. When you're a great player like him, you expect greatness out of everybody, and you don't get it in return. You don't know how to deal with that or whatever. I don't know that it's that. I do wonder whether he's capable of true self-examination in terms of, hey, if he's examined himself as an NBA player, all he had to do was go work on in the summer. I'm coming back. I'm adding a turnaround jump or whatever it was. When he did that, he worked on it, right, and to get to the height. That's the way he approached it, to get it to his maximum, to maximize his potential. He always could sort of examine himself and add to, fix whatever. I don't know if he's capable of that as an owner. And when that's the question. When you've made as many mistakes as he has, are you capable of saying, okay, what am I doing wrong? Right? Where do I need to go at again to maximize my potential in terms of personnel? What am I doing? Do I need another guy? Do I need another personnel guy? Because for whatever reason, my eye in terms of putting teams together, I've made bad decisions. I don't know if he's capable of that. And who knows? A lot of his bad breaks. I will say this: when you bottom line it, if you want to talk about that, he's been one of the worst owners, governor, whatever word you want to use today, that's ever really done it. And I guess it's been 13 years. I was reading the story today. Think about this too. Think about this though. From the business standpoint, Michael Jordan, the businessman, that bought this team for the majority stake for $275 million. And now this franchise is worth over $1.5 billion. Right. So I know Mike never won a championship. He couldn't put a dynasty together like he was part of with the Chicago Bulls. But in terms of a businessman, in terms of what he bought when he came in and now where this thing is in terms of what he's going to get back in return for selling it, bro, he is the GOAT. He goes back to me. You talking about $275 million? He bought this thing for. It's now probably gonna, again, he has the majority stake, but it's worth over $1.5 billion. That was in 2020 that it was valued at 1.5. So from that standpoint, Mike's gonna pull out here, and we'll say great player, failed owner, and we lose. Back to your point, because I'm not sure about the new ownership group to yours. I know one's from the Hawks, one's the minority owner for the Hornets. But he is the only black owner. And so I if you're not handing that off to a majority black owner, then you're losing the one that you had. We're trying to go the other way. So from that standpoint, it is if it does go to I'm looking at the Gabe Plotkin and Rick Schnall. I'm not sure.
Them ain't brothers.
Those don't sound like brothers. And so you would lose the only black owner again, unless one of these guys is brother. That said, Mike gonna make a lot of money, and one thing he's been the GOAT at is doing that during his career. So again, failed owner, but in the sense of businessman, very much a success.
This I don't know how, but this feels like some type of this is some type of petty shade he's throwing at LeBron some type of way. I don't know what it is. I don't know what it is. Maybe
why not stay an owner until I don't know. That's the one part
I'm clowning, but of course I'm playing. But people always say Jordan does stuff to mess with LeBron.
Hey, one more. You were going around the league real fast. Let me ask you this: how is Lopez past Jaren Jackson as the favorite for Defensive Player of the Year?
That's what I want to know, man. That's what people
I just looked at FanDuel, and Lopez is now the favorite.
Yeah, that's what people are saying. I think it might have been because Jaren's numbers are kind of slowed down. He's not having those 4 or 5 blocks per game.
He's still at 3.1 and Lopez is 2.5.
That's what I'm saying. I don't understand it because it's crazy. I'm talking about like the total numbers or whatever. But the thing is, like the Bucks have like Giannis and Drew Holiday on their team at the same time. Like if I said that If I told you that Brook Lopez was the third best defender in that team, how many people would argue with me? You know what I mean? So I don't get it. It would be a robbery to me, man. Like Brook Lopez has played a very long career. He's never won one of these. Jaren, of course, has a longer runway. He'll probably win several, but I feel like you're robbing this man if he doesn't get the Defensive Player of the Year award. He had injuries very early in the season. He's totally lost his mind. The Grizzlies have one of the top defenses in the league.
Number 2.
I don't know, man.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a better defense, and the Grizzlies were dead last in defense without him to start the year. And then they go up to as high as number 1. They had been number 1 before. They gave up, 138 to Miami. And so better defense, best player on that defense. Again, it feels like all of a sudden they're docking him again for the 17 fewer games played. He's still putting up incredible defensive numbers. So
yeah, man.
I hope that flips back. I hope it flips back.
I don't get it at all. I've still got Jaren as my favorite, of course, because he's Jaren. But I think at the end of the day, man, I think he's gonna be fine. If anything, we know he's gonna be all defensive player. I mean, first team.
Oh, no question
about that. Defense. Yeah, that whole thing really sucks though. That it seems like they're trying to create a narrative to move Jaren out of the way. But one narrative that I am kind of excited about is the MVP narrative. The books are showing that Joel Embiid may be the favorite for MVP right now. I've stated my case against Jokic. I've done this on your show, and I'll just make this point. When you start talking about 3 times in a row MVP, you're putting yourself in very rare air. You're talking about something that hasn't been done since Larry Bird back in the 80s. No Michael Jordan, no Kobe Bryant, no LeBron James, no Kevin Durant, no whoever, no one in our lifetime. If we're both in our 40s, of us watching basketball in the prime years of our life, no one has ever done that. And I'm not ready to put Nikola Jokic in that club. Not saying he's not an incredible player, but no, that's just not who he is. Now, this year, do I think he's put up an MVP caliber season? Of course he has. But it makes me question the other 2 before this, if you're about to say this guy is a 3-time in a row MVP. And I just can't say that in a league that has Joel Embiid, in a league that has Steph Curry, in a league that has Kevin Durant. I'm in a league that has Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's been a monster, a cyborg for the last 4 or 5 years. I can't say that Jokic has been the best player in the league 3 years in a row. And I'm glad to see this narrative coming around. It's like with a total reverse of energy, Jason Smith, than what I had for Jaren Jackson Jr. But I'm totally excited that this narrative is about, because I am a Jokic hater. As you guys like to say, I have Europhobia. Oh, what's it called? That Europhobia. Something that I have.
You got that Kendrick Perkins.
Yeah, exactly. Did you see when Kendrick Perkins was almost crying when Max Kelly was saying Jokic is better than James Harden? No, when he said that Luka was better than James Harden.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been accused of being a Europhobe or whatever.
Well, here's where you're right, saying you're gonna end up being right on in terms of look at what's happening here. Philly's won 6 in a row here. They are absolutely peaking, and Embiid's been at the center of that. While meanwhile, Denver all of a sudden is like 5-5 in their last 10. They've kind of hit a little patch where who knows, maybe they're just getting ready for the playoffs. I'm not gonna sit here and say they're regressing, but what has happened is Embiid has gotten hot. He's helped Philly get hot, and now if you look at record wise, Philly's only 1 game behind Denver in
win time ring
46 compared to 47 wins for Denver. So you really can't use Jokic is running off with the West when now Philly's got essentially the same record as Denver. Yeah. And here's the difference, saying I've been looking at it ever since you came on our show and talked about, well, there's supposed to be voter fatigue. Why is Jokic headed for, it seems, a third straight these voters about to get to him? There is no comparison defensively. Like, Embiid is so much more of a force on that end of the floor than Jokic is. And so if you're talking about both ends of the floor now, Embiid is the MVP.
He's the best player in the league.
He has been at the center of them getting hot here lately, and it's not offensively. He's doing it on defensive end. And like you talk about Kendrick Perkins, I go back to something easy. On Jokic, can't guard a chair. I mean, compared to Embiid, he cannot guard a chair. And so Embiid's doing it on both ends. For a team that's essentially got the same record now, even though they're third in the East compared to Denver's first, it's the same record. And so from that standpoint, I think this late push here by Joel has pushed him ahead of Jokic, who, was deserving. But now if you add in nobody really wants to see him get 3 straight. And now Embiid is dominating both ends. I think Embiid MVP. So you're gonna look right again, Sain.
Right. Drew Barrett was in the back. He texted me saying that I'm a xenophobe, is what I am. That I have a fear of anything foreign. You got me sounding like Clayton Bigsby up here a little bit, Drew Barrett. a black xenophobe. Man, what's up with you? Man, how you got a win time?
I've been trying. I mean, you can't get I'm trying to send you signals without tape, but I've got furniture right outside, and so what's so?
Okay, yeah. We gonna wrap this up though, man.
It's trying to come in right now. It's a Friday. We got furniture coming in the house.
All right. Well, yeah, you trying to signal me and I ain't signaling. All right. You guys been listening to the grind season. We appreciate y'all. Continue to listen. Subscribe on the free Audacy app or wherever you listen to podcasts.
Y'all come on, help me unload this furniture.
Yeah, I got some on the way. Send location. For Jason Smith, who's about to go unload a truck. Man, you better get you some real moving company, man.
I got the belt for my back.
The Hulk Hogan judge. For Jason Smith, this is Edge of the Same. Drew Barrett in the back. We'll see y'all and keep grinding.